welcome to Sports Beat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Tuesday, September 27th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. We're talking Royals today, and we have a terrific guest. Former Star columnist and best-selling author Joe Posnanski joined the group to discuss Royals and baseball. We talked about last week's firing of Dayton Moore and the elevation of J.J. Picollo, what the future could hold for the Royals, and some happenings around baseball. We had a few laughs remembering when Albert Pujols, who played at Fort Osage High and just hit his 700th career home run, was a member of the Stars All-Metro second team. Beat writer Lynn Worthy and columnists Vahe, Gregorian, and Sam McDowell were part of the conversation with Joe that started as a Sports Beat Live. Let's get started. Good morning from sunny Kansas City, and welcome to Sports Beat Live, our weekly conversation about the Kansas City Royals, where we talk baseball and Royals with the folks in the media who know them best and with you. And today, when I say the folks in the media who know them best, I really, really mean it. I always mean it, but we got Joe Posnanski in the house. And Joe, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. And let me introduce quickly Sam McDowell, Vahe, Gregorian, and Lynn Worthy are here, as they are every Tuesday morning. And Joe, the reason we have you on today, we of course want to talk Royals and baseball, but you're going to be in the Kansas City area this weekend, and I've got the flyer right here, if you can see it. Joe is going to be speaking at the at the Indian Creek Library in Olathe on Saturday at I believe it's do I say 5:30? Am I right about that? Joe?
I don't.
I know you have no idea.
No clue what they just tell me to get there and I'll be there. That's all I know.
All right. I just read the invitation more closely. 6 p.m. Joe's going to be at the Indian Creek Library in Olathe. And of course, that is between Black Bob and Merlin on 135th Street in Olathe. So not too far from the Big O Tires, where we've once talked about the Chiefs on a show like this. So tickets are $75. Well worth it to hear Joe. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I have to tell you, I thought the music leading into this was very jazzy. I thought it was very, very jazzy and cool. I'm doing great. It's so great to see all of you. I'm excited to be coming back to Kansas City. I don't know what I'm going to do or say or anything, but I know it's going to be a tremendous amount of fun.
I'm glad you have your handlers, Joe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By handlers, if you mean my wife, who sets all of it up for me. You're right. No, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I've actually spoken at the library before, and they were very, very kind in inviting me back. And I'll see if I can find out something else to say this time. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
And as usual, I omitted parts of the introduction for Joe, and it's because we knew Joe before he was a best-selling author, and before he wrote not the Soul of Baseball. We were all here for that because you were here at the Star, Joe, when you wrote the Soul of Baseball, touring the country with Buck O'Neill. Joe was at the Star as a columnist from 1996 until 2009. And of course, his magnum opus, of course, the Baseball 100 that reached number one on the New York Times bestseller list. So, not too shabby, Joe.
Can't believe it, Blair. How far we've come. I cannot even fathom where this thing began and how far we've come. But it's nothing else matters. The only thing that matters was our time in Kansas City and how much fun we had and how terrible the Royals were in those days. And that was really, and the Chiefs were heartbreakers every year, and the Royals were just flat out terrible. And that was basically my entire career, as you know, in Kansas City. and then I left, and Vahe stepped in, and Sam stepped in, and suddenly the Royals win the World Series, and the Chiefs are the greatest team ever, and everything happened after I left, which is still crushing to me, absolutely crushing to me.
Joe, wasn't the first time you didn't predict the Royals to win the World Series 2014 and 2015?
I think I did predict them to win the World Series anyway. I'm one thing I am very proud of is that in 2011 I wrote a Sports Illustrated story, big Sports Illustrated story about how the Royals were going to win the World Series in 2015. That was when they were still terrible, but they had the great minor league system, and all of those guys, Hosmer and company, were all coming up, and so I wrote in SI that, in fact, I wrote it as if I was writing from the future, and talking about this glorious Royals past that actually ended up happening, although it probably didn't last as long as any of us would have liked, but yeah, I mean, it really is, and now, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but I mean, here, you have the real end of an era with Dayton Moore, being whatever it is, pushed out, or whatever you want to say about it, and it really is the end of a long era that goes back 16 years to my days in Kansas City.
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk about that because the show runs on Tuesday, and I believe it was the next day. It was on a Wednesday that Dayton Moore was fired, and JJ Piccolo was elevated. Let's get right into that, guys. What the reaction in Kansas City was that I don't know. Those who knew Dayton, like we all know Dayton, were very sad for him. And those of us who have followed the Royals, like we all follow the Royals, I think believe change needed to happen at some level, at some point, based on this season. And Sam, you got into it in a big way in your column the next day, and just give us just take us back to last week and how you felt about it and why it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we learned most about that, because you mentioned it, Blair, we all knew the evolution of the Royals under Dayton Moore. And so, a lot of that was recapped, of course, during a press conference like that. But I think what we got more insight on was John Sherman as an owner. It's his first big move in 3 years as an owner. And I think we learned that he's more involved in the baseball side of it than probably we had expected, because his reasoning as he cited this change was things like, we need to be more data driven, was one of his quotes. He said, data has to be more prominent in the decisions we make. And, we asked for specifics on that. And a lot of times at a news conference like that, it stays broad, it stays general. And he offered specifics and said, when I'm talking transactions with my general manager, the anecdotes are great, but I want to know the data underneath it. And because of that, he wants to be more transactional. And so the question I think that the Royals are going to have to be more clear on now is exactly how is JJ Piccolo different? Because I think a lot of the fans are thinking, well, this guy was Dayton Moore's right-hand man, and they're right. Those of us who chat with both of those guys know that there is a difference in personality, but we've yet to see exactly what the difference in operations will be. And, huge offseason with the Royals, particularly on the pitching side. And, I think we're going to get those answers sooner rather than later, but I also think it's going to be important for them to communicate those answers as well. I'm also curious, and maybe this is shifting the conversation too much, but one of the things as we reflect on Dayton Moore's era in Kansas City is the very beginning of it, because when he took over, and this is what I've just wanted to ask Joe, but when he took over, I mean, it was just unthinkable that the Royals would ever win a World Series. And Dayton Moore accomplished that. And I think some of the ways he accomplished that flew under the radar a little bit, as far as convincing ownership to spend in certain areas that they had never spent before. So I was kind of curious, since we have Joe on here, what he remembers about those early years of Dayton Moore.
Wow. I remember a lot, obviously. One thing I would say about, there are a couple of things I'd say. First of all, I think and by the way, I think JJ Picollo is one of these. He's another one of my favorite people in all of baseball. I love the guy. I've known him obviously since he first came to Kansas City with Dayton, and I think the world of him. I think he's going to do a great job. I'm thrilled that rather than just completely starting over, they're giving this to JJ and letting him run with it. I think that's great. But there is an irony here, and the irony is that I've been pushing for JJ to become a general manager of baseball for a long time. I feel like he's been wildly overlooked, particularly by his hometown Philadelphia Phillies. Had multiple chances to hire him and did not, and I thought it was a big mistake. And the irony is, the reason they didn't hire him, I think, a lot because they didn't think he was data-driven enough. It's really kind of funny to think that now, he's going to lead this data-driven organization when that was exactly the knock on him. Unfair knock, I thought, but still the knock on him for all those years. With the early years with Dayton, it's in people will never remember. One thing that really bothers me. I mean, look, I think the Royals did what they had to do. Dayton's been there a very long time. I think a new start is a smart move. You have a new owner. I think John is a terrific guy and a guy who wants to win. And I totally understand the move. I totally understand why they did it. But one thing that really bothers me is I wrote this piece about how much I admire Dayton Moore, and I heard from a lot of people who said something to the effect of, you know what, he just got lucky. The only reason they won it all was because they got lucky. The league was down. A couple of good things happened for them. They weren't that good. They had that great playoff run, blah, 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 which is horrendous. It's a horrendous take on that. What Dayton Moore did in Kansas City, you can say that he didn't keep it together long enough. You can say that he failed to rebuild the team afterward. All of those things are fair, but that team, it was not, and Blair was with me during that whole time. He will remember all of this. They were a laughing stock. I mean, when he stepped in, not only were they spend no money, the organization was a joke. It was, he had to hire dozens and dozens of people to jobs that simply didn't exist before in Kansas City. Everybody else had them. But the Royals refused to spend any money on those things. It was incredibly, incredibly sparse. I can remember him coming in and like one of the first things he did was like create a special section for scouts to sit in. There was no place for scouts to sit at the ball game, and he was like, "No, we have to have a place for scouts to watch games. This is ridiculous." It was terrible, and he stepped in and really threw sheer will and the force of his personality and the force of his belief, brought this team back, and then things happened, and he was incredibly aggressive when he needed to be. When that team was close to winning, he made moves that were at the time questioned, and one of those moves brought them Wade Davis, so I think it was as important as anybody, in their run. He brought in people, during the season to help them win. I thought he was just a tremendous general manager. When the moment was right and he knew that the team had a chance to win, he was incredibly aggressive, and I thought he just did a great job. And I don't know that anybody else could have done it. Now it's different. The Royals are a different place. The game is in a different place. But you look at the Royals from 2004 to 2009, and those include some early years of Dayton's. They were a laughingstock across baseball. Everybody thought they were a joke, and he completely turned that around, turned them into a class organization with the best minor league system in baseball, and he deserves all the credit for that.
Yeah. I was going to say, think of the movie Moneyball and the Oakland A's when Billy Beane got there, and all the cheap things that were going on in that time period. That was the Royals in that stretch that Joe mentions. Hey, let's do this before we get too far. Let's hear from our sponsor, the University of Kansas Health System. But before we do, we're going to play the video of John Sherman's announcement of the news last Wednesday, and Dayton Moore coming to the mic. This will last about a minute and 10 seconds, and then you'll hear from the University of Kansas Health System.
March 4th, 2015, I got out of the shower and felt a lump in my left breast.
We were able to quickly uncover that she had 2 subtypes of breast cancer, each of them requiring separate and unique treatment plans. This is why you come to the University of Kansas Cancer Center.
It is critical to be treated by a team of experts in that specific cancer type. If you don't start with us, I think you'll have more questions than answers.
Why would you go anywhere else?
Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There is Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening. I think that flashed us between Dayton Moore and the commercials bonus coverage from us. That's the way I want to look at it. So, look, that was pretty darn gracious on Dayton Moore's part. I remember thinking as I was sitting there that how many teams, how many markets would have the outgoing VP of baseball ops come to the microphone and make a sort of a farewell statement, wishing everybody good luck. And I just thought that was a very nice moment by Dayton Moore. And so, look, on Saturday, J.J. Piccolo met the media and had his first sit down. And Lynn, you were there for that. And I'm just wondering what you heard from J.J. and what were the bullet points from that press conference.
Well, first, just to underscore some of what Joe was saying, and I went back to last year when we had the press conference. They elevated Dayton and JJ at the time. The numbers that Dayton cited of the baseball operations department when he took over was roughly about 85 staff members, including like the coaching staff at the major league level and the front office. And last year when they made that change, the number that he estimated was right around 260, 265, 270, something like that in the period of time. And that's still a growing department. And some people might say, they need to bulk up in certain areas. So just to underscore some of what Joe was saying. And Dayton JJ on Saturday, his first thing was just talking about sort of the impact that Dayton had. And I mean, even the day that the announcement came down, you sort of felt that. I know Vahe, wrote about sort of the impact, and we were talking to some of the guys that day. It was, it's kind of weird. In the clubhouse, it was almost like the only thing, and obviously it's a professional setting, it's different than life and death, but the feeling was almost like a loss. That's the vibe that was there in the clubhouse. And even talking to, in the coming days with some of the people who've, worked with Dayton for, more than a decade and a half. It was this loss, like is it though they lost somebody, a family member or something like that. That was sort of the vibe that you got. But again, adding to the weirdness of it is that, the person who took over had been there throughout this whole thing in JJ. And so you could tell, like Sam mentioned, how is JJ going to be different? I think we saw the first part of that actually this year with how JJ was doing a lot of the management of the major league roster. We talked, I think, in the past about some of the turnover that we've seen. And he on Saturday tried to say, well, he didn't want to say that that's going to be the norm, that they're going to turn things over on a rapid basis. But at the same time, what we saw this year from the beginning of the season to through the trade deadline, the amount of turnover they've had with the 40-man roster, the major league roster, talking about guys who were there at the beginning of the season, whether that's with Merrifield, Andrew Benintendi, Carlos Santana, and then guys who came in for short bursts that, you forget about, whether that's an Albert Abreu or Domingo Tapia, guys like Matt Peacock. I mean, like this has already started in this year with JJ's management of the major league roster, and then making moves like the trade of the draft pick to get Drew Waters and them acquiring guys. So I think we're already starting to see it. How much, more that happens. I mean, it'd be interesting because, John Sherman, it was funny to me. He said, well, I don't want to use the term churn because we're talking about, athletes and people here, but I think that is what he's, the examples that he cited when you say Tampa Bay and some of these places, they churn that roster over. That's what they're talking about. That's what they do. And so JJ tried, of course, talked about Dayton and how much impact he had and what they've learned from him, but also that it's going to be different. Like he's not, he used the actual phrase, I'm not Dayton Moore. And that's clear. And I think his track record just in this last year is clear with that, but how they go forward, data-driven decision. I think there's going to be changes. He didn't commit to the major league coaches staff. We asked about Mike Matheny, and I think he said, we haven't made any decision on any of the coaches. So, I mean, even if Matheny comes back, I wouldn't be surprised if, they make changes to that staff and he'll be the one who heads that. Because going back to May, Terry Bradshaw's dismissal, that was a JJ Piccolo move. That was JJ who made that call to do it at that time. So we're going to see a lot of, I think, change. It's just a matter of how fast and how regularly it's going to be. But I think there's no doubt there's going to be a different vibe, a different approach. The data-driven, I mean, he's talked in the past about, with the minor leagues trying to get more data-driven. He was on with us last week talking about that and how they need to do that with the pitching department. So there's going to be a difference. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. I think people who think it's just going to be more of the same, I don't see that at all.
So golf season's not going to start for you, Lynn, right after the game 162. There will be news to cover. Joe, how did the Royals look from afar? I mean, we're with them every day, right, and watching them every night, and that's not the case for you. But I'm just wondering what your impressions were of the way this season unfolded for them.
Well, first of all, I think Lynn has got it exactly right. To me, at this point, if you're going to let Dayton Moore go, you're saying you want complete change. I would actually be very surprised if Mike Matheny was brought back as manager. I just think you're starting over. I mean, you are definitely saying, hey, we are a different organization, and honestly, when you leave leftovers from previous organizations, it gets in the way. It doesn't, it's like why bring back Dayton's manager and have him how good are the Royals really going to be next year? What are you going to fire him mid-season if they're not good? I mean, it doesn't. All of those sorts of things seem to me to be just get in the way. I mean, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. Pull the Band-Aid off and let him go. And look, I think, to be fair to JJ, who I think is I think the world of him. I think he's a great baseball man. He's been, even this last year, whatever changes he was able to make, it still was under the big umbrella of Dayton. And we have to understand, Dayton was not just a longtime friend. Dayton coached JJ in college. I mean, like Dayton is been JJ's mentor for good and bad for almost 20 years. And so if he's going to do it and he's going to do it on his own, I don't think he needs Dayton Moore over his shoulder. He needs to be able to just say, okay, this is the organization the way I see it needs to be, and it needs to go. I think from afar, I think a lot of people were surprised that, honestly, it's funny from within how people view it and from the outside. From the outside, I think people were like, why did it take so long to get rid of him? I mean, honestly, it's like, yeah, he won a World Series, blah, 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 but that was a few years ago. And you look at his overall record, and what is it? Like, it's 3 winning seasons in 16 years. And so that's how I think people from the outside view it. But I don't think people from the outside have the perspective that they need to have. I mean, to see him build the organization the way he did. And then, I think what's happened the last few years is kind of a natural fall for the Royals. It's not like the Royals were going to be able to replace those great players with other great players. They weren't going to spend money to do that. They weren't going to go out and get free agents of any quality. And they weren't able to draft very high during those years. They were good. So you have those years, and maybe it's taken a little bit longer, but I don't think there's anything that has happened that should surprise anybody inside Kansas City. But from the outside, it's like, yeah, of course he's going to get fired. The team has lost 100 games, 3 of the last 4 years or whatever it is. And it's time for change. And I can't believe that guy is still there. I mean, like that's how it's viewed from the outside, but that's how people from the outside in Kansas City, when they see other teams, that's how they view them. It's nobody really understands it except for you guys who are there with them every day and can really, get a hold of what this actually means,
Yeah, I like to think people in Kansas City look at the rest of baseball and say, well, why don't they give that manager just a little more time? It's, that organization. Yeah, here we hang on to our coaches and managers and front office people. We just tend to do that. So, which is why it was such big news here. It really was. It was. Every media member was out at the press conference last week at a what it was called just a couple hours before it actually occurred. All right, Joe, we can't let you go without talking some baseball that doesn't touch Kansas City.
Okay.
There's some stuff going on. What do you? How about a quick thought on American League MVP? It's down to it's 2 candidates.
Yes.
And the reigning MVP is having a better season than he did when he won the MVP last year, Shohei Ohtani, but he ain't winning it this year, is he? No.
It's going to be, yeah. I mean, Aaron Judge is having I actually just finished writing about him for my newsletter. He's having not just a great year, but an all-time year, and not just because of the home runs. I mean, he's going to break the American League record probably over the next few days, and he's got 60 already, and that's what everybody's talking about, and what's the real home run record, and blah blah blah, all that stuff. But he's having a year he's having a better year than Mike Trout's ever had. He's having a better year than Albert Pujols has ever had. He's doing things that Barry Bonds never did. I mean, he is going to lead if he leads the league in batting. That's the one thing that's still very much up in the air. He's hitting .314. There are a couple of guys hitting .313. But if he leads the league in batting, he will lead the league in batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, and home runs. And that only 13 other players in baseball history have ever done that. And the last one to do it was Carl Yastrzemski in 1967. So you're talking about an all-time season. And, the thing about Ohtani is, and I said this last year when he won it, he's the MVP every year. If you look at it a certain way, he's always, because and no matter what, he could hit 100 home runs and people would still say, yeah, but what's his ERA, right? I mean, there's no argument you can make against what Shohei Ohtani's doing because nobody else is doing it. He's in a category all by himself. And I just think he should win the Shohei Ohtani award every year. He's not like the MVP award is like a separate thing. It's like for for mere mortals, and then there's the Shohei Ohtani Award for the guy who is top 10 in the league in homers, RBIs, wins, ERA. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke what he's doing. So yeah, I give the MVP to Judge, not because they're winning or because of anything like that, but because he's having an all-time year. I mean, an absolute all-time year. And we should also talk about because Blair, you were there in Kansas City. I think the rest of you guys are a little young, except for Vahe, who was in St. Louis at the time. Number 700 for Albert Pujols, the 700th home run for Albert Pujols. And Blair and I are old enough to remember when Albert Pujols finished second team All-Metro in Kansas City, which is will always go down as among our favorite memories of Kansas City baseball.
It was his defense. You got to be a little bit better defense over there at first base.
You got to play defense. You're going to make the All-Metro team. You got to play defense, right? So, but wow. I mean, there's to me, as great a story as Ohtani is, a great a story as Judge is, to me, the most emotional story of the year is sort of the return of Albert and him putting on the St. Louis uniform and finding some part of his youth. I mean, that's been an amazing thing to watch all year.
I shared this story with Vahe on our trip to Indy over the weekend, but I actually saw Pujols play in high school. Wanted to see a second team All-Metro player in person, and saw him play in the Wood Bat tournament over in Blue Springs for American Legion baseball. And first at bat that they walked him. Second at bat, he's up with the bases loaded, and the manager comes out, manager, pitching coach, I don't know who it was, but you could tell the conversation was, I get it, the bases are loaded, but we're still not pitching to this guy. And at that point, he was playing shortstop as well. But he first two pitches are curveballs that are 50-footers in the dirt. Third pitch is a fastball that's about 6 inches off the ground, and he golfs it over the center field fence for a grand slam. And we're standing next to scouts. I think it was about 10 years old or so. And the scouts were talking about, God, we should take this guy in the first round. And, of course, I had never been around a scout. I'm kind of thinking, well, this guy's going to be a first rounder. Can't wait to see where he goes. And then all of a sudden he's a 13th round pick. And I understand there's some other, money, financial stuff in play there. But at that time I'm thinking, wow, I can't believe there's, whatever that would be, 350 baseball players out there that were better than that guy I saw over the summer. And it turns out there weren't 350 better players than that guy that year.
No, I remember, and Vahe might remember this as well. So he spent 1 year in the minor leagues after being a 13th round pick by the Cardinals. And then he comes to spring training for the Cardinals. And I remember this very vividly. I was with Vahe. I think we were covering Missouri in the tournament at that point. And Bernie Miklasz, who is the columnist in St. Louis, calls me on the phone and he says, you need to leave there and come down to spring training right now, because this was his first spring training. He's like, your boy Albert, and I didn't even know, like, who was he talking about? Like, oh, Pujols, yeah. This guy, like they're already talking about him like he's going to go into the Hall of Fame. This was like 2 weeks into spring training, his very first spring training. And Bernie was like, you got to get down here. This guy is it's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. And Tony La Russa's, saying he's the greatest player he's ever seen already. I mean, it was incredible. That was 1 year out of, him being drafted. So yeah, the scouts might've missed on that one. That might've been a miss.
By the way, just a little trivia. I got looking up some stuff. Anybody come up with the name of the first team All-Metro shortstop that year? Anybody? It was Ryan Stegall. Maybe it's Stegall.
Sure.
Yes.
Coach at Liberty North.
He's a coach up in
Missouri.
He's a head coach up in Liberty now.
Yeah, correct. And our dear former colleague Sam Mellinger, I guess, reached him a couple of years ago and talked to him about this. And Ryan said, "Yeah, I guess I'll always have that over Albert."
It's like the guy who, I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy who beat out Michael Jordan for the final spot. I would not only would I be proud of that, I'd make T-shirts made I beat out Albert Pujols, I would cherish that for the rest of my life.
I just wonder if Albert has his second team All Metro certificate framed.
The thing about Albert is he probably does have it framed, and he probably just stares at it every single day. It's the thing that's driving him still
He was
to this day.
spurred by his whole career was made by the Kansas City Star, is what you're saying.
David Boyce, that's right. David Boyce made Albert Pujols.
David Boyce made Albert Pujols, exactly right.
Oh, hey, look, we could go on for a while, but it's time to bail. Joe, great conversation. And listen, if you want to continue to hear Joe, you can do that Saturday at the Olathe. It's not the Olathe, the Cedar Creek Library in Olathe on 135th Street at 6:00. So Joe knows when to be there.
Sure.
And $75 a ticket. So just check it out. It's going to be so much fun. And Joe, thank you so much for being here today. Great to talk to you as always.
It's fabulous.
And always great to see Vahe, Gregorian, Sam McDowell, and Lynn Worthy. And our producer is Monty Davis. Sponsor is the University of Kansas Health System. Not many of these left. 9 games left in the regular season for the Royals. Well, the only season for the Royals. And they're playing at Detroit and at Cleveland, 6 in Cleveland to end the season. But we'll be back next Tuesday talking Royals. And Scott, I promise we'll get to that question next week if there's a change at managerial position for the Royals, who candidates might be. We will absolutely talk about that next week. Okay, guys, have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon. That'll do it for today. Thanks to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Monty Davis, Randy Mason, George Howard, and Jeff Rosen. A big salute to Joe Posnanski. He'll be in Olathe on Saturday to talk baseball. The program will take place at the Indian Creek Library at 6 p.m. Go to olathe-library.org/A Taste of Literacy for more information. Once again, olathe-library.org/A Taste of Literacy for more information. Also, Morning Sports Edition, biggest daily sports section in the country. Read it and you'll know what I mean. Go to liveedition.kansascity.com for more information. Hey, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC.